chairman of the House Small Business Committee, who knows how desperately these bills are needed to aid our small business growth. Gentleman from Ohio.
Gentleman from Ohio is recognized for 2.5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And I rise today in support of H.R. 2357, the Accelerating Access to Capital Act of 2015. I especially want to voice my strong support for the Micro Offering Safe Harbor Act, which is now an integral part of this bill, in which I was happy to co-sponsor when it was first introduced. I want to thank Chairman Henserling and all the folks on the Financial Services Committee for working on behalf of small businesses all across the country, and I happen to chair the House Small Business Committee, as was mentioned. And small businesses are hurting across America. There's no question about that. And access to capital is a critical issue for America's 28 million small businesses. At the Small Business Committee, we like to acknowledge that every small business started with an idea. Those ideas can become jobs. In fact, those ideas create about 7 out of every 10 new jobs created in this country every year. But access to capital is the key ingredient. A lot of our existing laws and far too many federal regulations make access to capital harder for small businesses, harder for them than it is for larger companies, larger corporations, and hedge funds. H.R. 2357 takes an important step in addressing this problem. By clarifying the law in a way that allows small businesses to raise capital through limited, smaller-scale, non-public offerings, we are cutting through the red tape that has kept far too many new investors just out of reach from a lot of our small businesses. This legislation also addresses the unfair share of the federal regulatory burden that our small businesses carry. At the Small Business Committee, we hear countless examples of businesses that have to decide between meeting regulatory costs and meeting their payroll. And that means many, many families, American families all across the country, who depend on these small businesses. That's what happens when regulators don't consider the impact of what they're imposing on businesses of every size. A regulation that might be workable for a large company can prove devastating for a small business. The Small Business Regulatory Flexibility Improvements Act, which the House passed last year, addresses this problem. Today's legislation also fully recognizes that the federal government's regulatory approach cannot be a one-size-fits-all, especially where small businesses are concerned, and that's why I'm here to support it. So I again want to thank Mr. Henserling and all the folks on the Financial Services Committee for their hard work in this area. We have to do something about helping small businesses all across the country, and the regulatory burdens that come out of this city, out of Washington, D.C., are killing companies all across America. They're killing jobs. And so thank you very much for working hard on this legislation. I yield back.
The time of the gentleman has expired.